Hello, everybody. Welcome once again to another This Week. And let me tell you, what a week it has been. We got a lot of news here for you tonight. And we got pretty much anything that you guys want to bring up. So we're going to certainly talk about this, that, and everything else. So let's get going here. The big piece of news is, it's that tentative debt ceiling, debt ceiling. Holy cow. So, as you know, through the week, the big news has been, of course, will we get to a debt ceiling in the US, or are we looking at defaulting? Did not want to see a default, so that's a good thing. So they worked through the weekends. A lot of it is basically the Republicans wanted to put a big curb on spending, and they also were looking to make it a little bit harder to get things like food stamps in certain situations, as well as Medicaid. So the Democrats really weren't up for that, and that's kind of where everything was sort of falling apart. Well, through the long weekend, because it is Memorial Day weekend down there in the States, Biden and McCarthy have actually reached a tentative debt ceiling deal. That is great. That's fantastic. It might mean that the stock market might actually be normal this week, which would be really, really good. So, what is this going to look like? Well, first of all, there's a rush on right now just to get the text of the deal finalized because they would like to get a House vote on it on Wednesday. That way, the House can vote on it, move it over to the Senate, and get that through because they kind of got that hard cap. Yellen gave a hard cap of June 5th. So we want to get this all done by June 5th. So that's kind of a big thing. All right. Now, before I tell you what's in it, I'm going to quickly just say hello to Mr. Red Taco. Hello. Welcome to the chat. And hi, Dr. Nick. I'm not sure who Dr. Nick is, but hello, Dr. Nick. Bleak says, hey. And of course, Mr. Red Taco, government must have been, well, that word, the six had to work a weekend for once. So we're going to take a look here and just see quickly. And there's also, all I do is win, says Vineet. All right, perfect. So the deal itself is a 2-year debt increase. Now, all of the information has not yet been released. We are looking at one of the key arguing points was on veterans care. The Republicans did initially want to reduce it, but that's going to stay as is. So they're not reducing the veterans care. However, there's going to be an increase on work requirements. So for food stamps, and especially if you're single without kids and you're able-bodied, then you're going to have a lot more restrictions on you. And also with Medicaid as well. The other big thing is they're looking to streamline energy projects. So speeding them up to get them out the door and moving faster when we're in a situation where energy is kind of a bit of an issue. So that's going to be interesting. Oh, it's a Simpsons reference. Yes. Oh, I know who Dr. Nick is now. Thank you. What I said is a song reference. All I do is win. All I do is win. I'm not sure what song that is, but it's probably winning if that if that works. No, it's really good to be here today. It's pretty darn hot. I will tell you this right now. It's warm in the office. It's warm in the studio. Hopefully you guys are all enjoying some nice weather as well. So it looks like summer has finally arrived in Ontario. That is absolutely fantastic. Before we move on to some more news, the Hot Ones Challenge, we're getting closer. We're at, I think right now we need 58 more subs, and then we'll do that challenge. So that's going to be a lot of fun. Probably more fun for you guys than it's going to be for my poor tongue, because I watched a few people doing the challenge, and every time I'm watching them do that bomb, I'm like, oh God, I'm going to be doing that live on air. This is going to be really brutal, but it's going to be fun. It'll be fun. I'm looking forward to it. I may be breathing a lot when I get to there, like, that whole trying to cool off the old mouth. So we'll have to see how that's going to work out. Hip hop music. Okay, that explains it. Hip hop music is one of those genres of music I honestly don't listen a lot to, but that would make sense. Of course, nowadays I don't have a lot of time to listen to music. I'm listening to more or less just whatever I have on my playlist. And then if I happen to stumble upon a new song that's awesome, it gets added to the playlist. So that's kind of one of those things. Do you have the AC cranked? Not at the moment. I think it's on, but where I'm on the third level, it's not as prevalent up here. So I do have the window open for the moment. And yeah, oh, da bomb. Yes, da bomb. I've got it. It's sitting down here right now. So I'm going to have a drink of, there we go. Okay. There's been a whole bunch of interesting things that happened this week. NVIDIA. How many of you saw NVIDIA explode this week? Because they did. They crushed their earnings. They had an earnings report that came out, and as a result of that earnings report, they went up by 27.23%. That's absolutely awesome. In fact, the earnings, they were anticipated to bring in an EPS of 0.92. They actually brought in 1.09. Their revenue was expected to be 6.52 billion, and it came in at 7.19 billion. So they blew that right out of the water. Now, here's the big thing. A lot of people now, I think, are looking and say, well, okay, is this just because of AI? You know, maybe AI is not a joke. So that's kind of one of those things people are starting to think about. And interestingly enough, there's this really elite $1 trillion club. So, you know, companies like Microsoft, Apple, Amazon, well, I don't know if Amazon's still in it, but Google, so Alphabet, it's called the $1 trillion club, and NVIDIA is almost on the doorstep of that. So that could be really interesting if they keep on doing what it is that they're doing. All right. I ran into this neat little article this week on recessions and the probability for a recession. So here's the interesting thing. I'm going to give you the top 5. Well, technically the top 6, because there's a 3-way tie for fourth. But these are the top 5 countries by probability for recession. So they say the UK, so United Kingdom, has a 75% chance of going into a recession this year. New Zealand, they're giving them a 70% chance. The good old USA, a 65% chance. And then we have 3 countries at 60%. So that's Germany, Italy, and Canada. So that's kind of interesting. We're at a 60%. So it looks like to me, it still looks more likely than not, but you never know. Well, there's a lot of interesting things coming up too. Now, here's the countries. And I'm going to get you guys to see if you guys can guess. If you can guess, hit it up in the comments and tell me what country you think has the least chance of going into a recession. And we'll start with the 5th least, which is Brazil. So Brazil has a 15% chance of going into a recession. China has a 12.5% chance. Saudi Arabia, they have a 5% chance. Indonesia has a 2% chance. All right, now I'm not going to tell you who the last one is here. I want you guys to guess this one. So let's try to think of a country that's doing really well economically. Now, as we do that, I will also just mention very quickly about the US Q1 GDP. So that was actually revised up from 0.2 from 0.2 see, I'm having trouble talking. What a day, right? That was revised up by 0.2. So it was 1.1. It's now been revised up to 1.3. So that's, once again, that puts them a little bit further away from a recession, which is kind of interesting. Okay, guys, you guys are not voting. Tell me who it is, you guys. All right. Well, I will tell you then. It was India with a 0% chance of going into a recession. And that makes sense because India right now is absolutely, look at this. Joe got in right away. Joe, bang. Nice one, Joe. India, yeah, came in at 0%. And their economy has been absolutely exploding. they're starting to pick up a lot of business from that was formerly for China. So India they're looking to be a really, really interesting country. If you're ever thinking of investing outside of North America, an exposure to the Indian market may not be an entirely bad thing. So, yeah, that is India for us. So that's going to be kind of interesting. All right. Let's another big thing that happened this week. We're getting through the news pretty fast, folks. You guys got to start throwing questions at me, or otherwise we'll be through the news, and then I'll just start telling you guys stories about crazy stuff. I don't know. Um, so Canadian bank earnings, not all of them, everybody came out except for National Bank. National Bank always tends to be last. But they were pretty weak earning season indeed. So four of our five banks, TD, RBC, BMO, and Scotiabank, they all missed their estimates. Now CIBC was the outlier. They actually beat their estimates, which is great. But keep in mind, CIBC also took some pretty bigger hits earlier in the year before this quarter. So that might explain what's going on there. And it'll be interesting to see. I want to see what National Bank does, because I kind of hedged my bet on National Bank this time around. So hopefully they will also do better than expected. I'm hoping. All right. And Wayne says, NVIDIA, spillover into Canadian techs. My CLS is up 22% from the beginning of May. Nice. Yeah, there's going to be some really interesting things. Just to give you a hint, the video I have coming out for Tuesday is growth stock superstars in Canada. So Canadian stocks that have exploded growth-wise in 2023. So I got 5 really interesting ones for you guys. So we'll be able to check that out on on Tuesday. I'm so used to the old schedule. So I've got, in the whole lines of getting recovered and all of that, I've got this new schedule put together. So for now, we're going to try Tuesday and Friday at 1 p.m. We'll see how those work. I may move those around a little bit if they're, if for whatever those times are just not working with the overall community. So we're going to look at that as the 2 days going forward for now. That also gives a tiny bit of distance between the live stream on Sunday and then Tuesday. So you're not getting too overdosed on me. And that I think will be kind of cool. The extra video that I sometimes would do before in the past on Saturday, once we bring that back in, it'll probably I don't think we'll give it a specific schedule drop. It'll be more or less, it'll just drop when it is ready. So that's going to be really, really, really interesting. And we get a dancer alert as I believe this is Nancy, who's in the house right now. Awesome. Good to see you, Nancy. Glad to see you're home. Hopefully you're home. She could be sitting in a hotel room. Nancy Danter, because of her job, she does a lot of traveling. So she's all over the country. So sometimes I just never know where she is. So, all right. That was our banking sector. We also had a little bit of news that came out in regards to our critical minerals. And what's going on there is, Canada's starting to fall behind. We had a lot of goals to try to really push our critical minerals production, and it's not working. And the reason it's not working is that it can take 25 years to get a new project greenlit, which is absolutely ridiculous. If you were to look at Australia on average takes about 4 years to get a new project greenlit. Here in Canada, 25 years. That's crazy. Now, the Natural Resources Minister, so that's Jonathan Wilkinson, he has promised to speed up Canada's approval process, but right now, changes are still in the planning stage. I know there was an example I saw where there's a new copper mine they wanted to start. There was a good supply of copper, but 4 years after they've applied, the environmental people, all these environmental groups are still coming in and doing study after study to make sure that it's going to be okay. So as Wayne says, that's ridiculous. Absolutely. If we want to compete with the world, we can't compete 25 years down the line with the world. We need to compete a little bit sooner than that. So that's kind of interesting when it comes to our costly our natural resources. It's going to be costly to us if we don't start utilizing all of the resources that we do have. There's a lot of money for Canada to be made. And that can benefit all of us if the government just gets off of their butts and makes things work correctly. So get this streamlined. If you can hear me, Trudeau, get it done. Don't just tell me why you can't get it done. Just get it done. All right. Now, the days of ordering stuff online, we all really, really took to that during the pandemic. We're now at a point where a lot of retailers are starting to say to themselves, there's way too many returns. So some of them are starting to fight back. We're looking at some retailers are looking to shrink the return window so you don't have as much time to do a return. And there's even others that are starting to look at, well, charging restocking fees. So that way there, if you think about it, as people are becoming more wary spending their money, all of a sudden, if you're going to get a restocking fee because you get the wrong size in something, you're probably not going to go buy it. What you might just see is you might see people going back to the brick and mortar stores to, go buy those shoes. I know my mom, when my mom buys shoes because she's got odd feet, she'll buy a pair and she'll return them and buy a pair and return and buy and return and buy and return before she finds something that fit her feet properly. So that's just craziness. And I think she'll be one of these people who will probably just go to a shoe store because, she won't be able to afford losing a chunk of every single purchase. All right. Mr. Red Taco says it will take another 25 years to get the approval process approved. Oh, gosh. That's actually very funny because that's bureaucracy in a nutshell. It takes so long to get stuff done. But I mean, it is the government system that we have. All right. Now we're starting to, we're actually, holy cow, we're getting through the news really, really fast. So you guys are going to have to start throwing questions at me or else we're going to go off on tangents. My last story of the day is all about Cineplex. So if you guys have noticed, Cineplex has started doing this crazy thing where if you buy a movie ticket, so you go and buy, for one, movie tickets cost a lot already, and they're also milking you to death when it comes to the popcorn and the pop and the snacks. Now, what they're doing is they're basically saying, okay, you want to come to the movie and you want to buy your ticket online? Sure, we're going to charge you a booking fee of $1.50. And they've started doing this roughly 5 months ago. And since they started doing it, they've actually generated $11.7 million in profit. Just straight up profit that they wouldn't have had before. Now, this seems a little unfair. And I even know, when we've gone to the movies a couple times, we've looked and saw how much extra we had to pay from home. And it's just like, we'll just go pay for it in there. It doesn't cost them anything for us to buy it online. It's just basically a money grab. So the Canadian Competition Bureau kind of agrees with my take on this, and they're not very happy about it. In fact, they are suing Cineplex, and they want them, first of all, they want them to cut it out. They also, they also want them to pay a penalty for what they've done, and they want them to issue restitution to the affected customers. So who knows? There might be a class action suit here, but here's the downside. If Cineplex is really, really wanting that extra money, what they could do is instead of just charging that $150 to people who are trying to use the online purchase, they could just raise ticket prices right across the board by $150. That would be one way that they could try to sort of even it out, and then we all lose in that case. But still, I do not want to pay an extra $1.50 for a movie ticket. So yeah, and Mr. Red Taco has it right, $12.50, and that was just your ticket. Now, if you buy popcorn and you buy everything else, you're easily $20, $30 just to go see the movies. And if you got a family, if you're taking like yourself, a spouse, and maybe 2.5 kids, holy banana bread, you might as well get a loan from the bank just to go to the theater. So it is up there. And it's not Ticketmaster. This is just the actual Cineplex website that's doing this. So when you go to cineplex.com and you try to buy your ticket online, that's where you're getting charged that $150. So it is Cineplex doing it to you. You know, they're doing their thing. Hello, Jake. Good to see you. And oh, I almost missed Trevor. Hi, Trevor. Good to see you. And I went to the mall the first time in 3+ years. It was a bit of a challenge. Yeah, well, the first thing is to find the mall. It's kind of funny. I remember growing up, there used to be malls everywhere. But now it's like, I think most cities might have 1 or 2 malls, depending on the size of the city. Even here, I know of one mall downtown, like the Rideau Center. There used to be a mall out at Bayshore, which is actually funny. The first time I moved to Ottawa, I used to listen to the radio and I hear them talking about Bayshore, Bayshore, Bayshore. And I actually thought they were talking about Bajor, which is like a fictional planet in Star Trek. I'm like, why are they talking about Bajor all the time? But that was Bayshore. So I don't know if that's still in existence. It might be. It might not be. I really don't know. I would say 99% of everything I buy is pretty much online. So it's very rare that I go to a store, but that will be interesting to see. Now, back to the Hot Ones challenge. I am looking for questions. I've got a few questions in already from you guys. So, just put your question anywhere. Just let me know it's for the Hot Ones, because I do want to have 10 questions that I can ask, that I can answer. I was going to say ask you guys. No, that I can answer as I'm doing the thing. And I'm going to try to rank them from easiest question up to the hardest question. Now, the actual event itself, when we're doing it, it is going to be a live stream. So, whatever suffering I have, whatever embarrassment I have, like, if I've got drool coming out of my mouth, it's going to be there. You're going to see it all. It's just too much. So it'll be interesting. Kay Miller says, 2 people eat at the mall for me. Yeah, I can understand that. My biggest pet peeve, of course, is smelly people on the bus. That was brought to focus this week. It's definitely there. I'm not going to tell you what happened, but if you can think of the most worst possible thing you could smell on a bus, I got to smell that, and it was not a fun ride. That was coming back from one of my appointments. I was just like, oh my God. So yeah, once again, smelly people on the bus, my number one pet peeve. I will keep that in line. Mr. Red Taco went to the mall in the middle of the day, but I was in and out in an hour. Yeah, at least then, it shouldn't be too bad. I remember, oh God, and even in the Maritimes, when I was a kid, if you went to the mall, even towards the holidays, holy cow, it used to be like being in a mosh pit trying to get to store. So glad that everything is not like that so much anymore. But I'll tell you, not the best situation. So now, there was something. I think I missed a story. I think I accidentally just jumped over one of the stories. Yes, I did. There we are. I did have a tiny little something on inflation as well I wanted to bring up. So we had the Personal Consumer Expenditures Price Index that came out this week in the U.S. And basically, they actually saw a little bit of an uptick in inflation on that one. The cost of goods and services rose 0.4%. So they're kind of thinking that they might have some sticky inflation going on where it's sort of stuck between 4 and 5%. So that's not good if you don't like rate hikes, because it's going to look. It looks like the June meeting of the Fed is probably going to be another 25 basis points as a result. Now with Canada, we may be in a pause, but it's starting to look like there may be another rate hike. We just have to sort of wait and see. If it is, it would be a 25 basis point one. But right now, I think a few financial institutions are calling about a 30% chance of another rate hike by the Bank of Canada. So we'll have to see. I mean, how are you guys finding prices right now when you're out, like especially groceries? Now, I think groceries have been one area where it's supposed to be slowing down, but we also have to keep in mind too that when we are talking about slowing down, it's not that it's not that prices are going to go backwards. It just means that they're going to still be going up, but just not going up as fast. So it'll be very interesting to see if there's anything going on with that at all. And Mr. Red Taco is saying that he is still finding grocery prices are going up. Yeah. Yeah, inflation is kind of that sword. Like prices are always going up. I just heard some dishes go flying somewhere in the house. So, but yeah, prices are always going up. And I think what we want them to do is we want them to go up a lot slower. I mean, all you have to do is, if you want a really good appreciation of inflation, is just think about how much it cost for, something that you regularly buy now when you were a kid. I can actually remember when bread was like a quarter a loaf. Now that's going way, way back. Because I remember I had a cousin, and they gave us, well, they gave a bunch of us a quarter so that we could go in and get a chocolate bar or something. My cousin decided he'd buy a loaf of bread. So he got a loaf of bread for his quarter, only because it was more. He thought he'd have more to eat. So that's kind of a funny little thing there. See, a loaf of cheap bread was $3 at the store the other day. Yeah, $3. Holy banana bread. That's a lot. And sometimes I think I'm a little out of touch when it comes to what the grocery stores are charging, because sometimes Joe will mention to me what something costs, and I'm like, what? That sounds kind of high. But you don't really have a choice, right? We still all have to eat. That's kind of that big thing. So anyway, I should get a thing out pretty soon to give you guys a vote on the next deep dive, because I kind of like that, just giving you guys a bunch of companies and letting you choose which one you want. I find that was working really, really well. So we'll get something out for you pretty darn soon, because I'm hoping, well, Tuesday I should have the list one, and then Friday will be that deep dive. So that'll be kind of cool. I was actually really surprised when I was doing it for this week, the Power Corp of Canada. When I pulled up that list, I'm like, I've never done Power Corp of Canada. How have I not done this company? So that was really, really, really cool. And Kay Miller says, even dollar store prices are getting crazy. Yeah, it's going to be one of these things where, I mean, can you even get anything for $1 anymore at the dollar store? Because I think most of it is like $1 or $2 or $3 or $4 or $5 or something like that. I mean, it makes sense. I mean, I don't mind paying a little bit more as long as I'm still paying significantly less than I am at a big chain. But at the same time, it also really depends. I think dollar stores are really in a position to do really, really well, as long as people are staying in this whole focused on the economy mode. And that does seem to be what's going on. So, oh, there we go. So chocolate bars and pop for under $1. Well, that's not too bad. That's not too bad at all. Yeah, that's, although it's kind of funny. I'd love to do a study just to see how they can pull that off, because I'm just thinking, like, you take a Mars bar. I mean, how much are they paying for that Mars bar? Because most stores, like most retail stores, what they're charging is about double what they're costing them. So if they buy it, so for example, if they bought Mars bars for $1 from a wholesaler, they would pretty much sell it to you for about $2. So, that's just kind of the whole way that retail works. Now, some places it's even crazier. Like if you go to clothing stores, they mark things up insane. Like a clothing store might pay $1 for a piece of clothing and then sell it for 20. So that's why if you ever want good discounts on clothes, get one of your kids to work at one of the clothing stores to get a discount, because they normally give half decent discounts to their employees. And K Miller, I did buy shares in Dollarama. Yeah, Dollarama's a good. They've had a really good growth, nice steady growth. So Dollarama, Alimentation Couche-Tard, those are two companies I think that you can't go wrong with if you're looking for just a nice, long, steady growth up. So those are definitely really good companies in that case. So Mr. Red Taco says CBC did something about that if a dollar store would be cheaper than, say, Walmart, something yes, some things yes, other things no. Yeah, absolutely. I mean, Walmart has that unique little position where because they have pretty much everything, um, when you go into Walmart for something, you can pretty much get all of the other stuff you need. You can get your groceries, you can get your pet stuff, you can get your pharmacy stuff, you can get toys for the kids, you can get your patio accessories for outdoors in the backyard. So you get a little bit of everything from them. That's kind of one of the things. Like Walmart has been, and I call this Walmartism. They have come into communities and have put a lot of mom and pop shops completely out of business because you can't really compete with them. Dollar stores, the dollar store, I think, is a little bit of a different beast. And I think a lot of times, it's kind of funny. Walmart sort of looks at the dollar store and says, well, our stuff's better quality. People will come to us instead. And sometimes that's very debatable. I mean, you can argue whether or not it is better quality or not. So Mr. Red Taco says, like when you're paying per milligram or gram. Yeah, exactly. And Jill says they have lost leader items where they lose money on certain items and make it back on others. Oh yeah, absolutely. It goes back to Happy Days. If you guys remember Happy Days from the olden days, there was an episode where Howard left Marion in charge of the hardware store while he had to go on a conference or something. So she then went and put paint on sale, and she put it on sale at a loss. And Howard was really, really upset about it until he finally saw all the data, and they actually made a whole bunch of money because then she was like, oh yes, but I didn't have the paintbrushes on sale, and I didn't have the drop cloths on sale, and the mixers and all that stuff. So it just sort of goes. That's kind of that whole loss leader thing that Jill was talking about. It's a great way that as a store, nobody's going to go buy the paint at your store and then go across town to buy a paintbrush at another store. So, if you've got high markups on things like paintbrushes and that, and let's say you have a lower markup on paint, well, then that would make paint the good one to become your loss leader in a situation like that. So that's kind of interesting. Mr. Red Taco says, a small town I grew up in got a Walmart about 10 years ago. A lot of mom and pop stores closed because they couldn't compete with Walmart prices. Yeah, absolutely. It's one of those things. Like, it's one of those things where it's almost inevitable. Like, I've always wanted to support the mom and pop stores, but at the same time, I also really like the money that, I don't like spending a lot of money. So I'm kind of torn that way. It's like, it's like I kind of have to go to Walmart. I can't pay a whole bunch extra just to support the mom and pop stores. And that's a shame. If money weren't an object, absolutely. I would definitely be putting more money into mom and pop stores, but I really do like money. So it would take a whole bunch of extra money before I would look at the more expensive options. So even if you took a cab round trip, it was still cheaper to go to Walmart than shop at a mom and pops. Yeah, exactly. Well, you take it. If you wanted to do all your shopping at mom and pops, there's the gas to get there, and then they won't have everything you need. You're gonna have to go to another one, maybe in another part of town, and another one. And before long, all of that gas adding up, oh my God, you add the higher prices, you're paying a lot to support local. Now, one thing I will say is it is a little better sometimes now that if a mom and pop store goes online and sets up like maybe they go through Shopify or something and sets up an online presence, that is one thing that they can do. And in a case like that, they can still compete, I think, online. And heck, even if, and this is kind of what I would do, if I would, I would start selling some of the stuff right through Amazon itself. And that's kind of what I would do if I was running that sort of business. And there are really good businesses with Amazon. Like, I don't know if you call it drop ship or not, but one of the best ones I heard of was this guy went onto the Chinese market and he found these funky map things. They were kind of I don't know if it was like an atlas map, but it was really, really unique. And he just bought thousands of them. And then and he was getting them for like, a couple of bucks a piece. And then he was turning around and selling them on Amazon for 20 bucks and made a ton doing that. So there's a lot of opportunities out there if you're looking to, do things like that. But at the same time, I think the opportunity, it's still there, but I don't think it's as good as it used to be because now everybody and their dog is kind of doing that. So you could buy a bunch of product, or you could work out a deal with one of these companies where they could just drop ship it directly to the person. So there's all kinds of different things. But the only problem I have is that I know anytime I've ordered anything from China, it's kind of like, okay, it'll show up probably within a few months or so. And if I try to buy something from China and there's a size related to it, it will be the wrong size every single time. So I know the limitations, but sometimes I'll buy something goofy from China and I just know, okay, well, it'll show up eventually and it'll be like a Christmas gift when it arrives. So, that is not a bad thing. And Mr. Red Taco says, if you look during COVID, companies like Amazon, Walmart made big money. Amazon, Walmart didn't skip a beat. No, they didn't. Well, Amazon, and that's the whole thing. Like, Amazon has laid off a lot of people, but during the pandemic, they had to hire a lot of people to deal with all of that extra influx. Because, you're sitting at home, you've got your free government support, and you got nothing to do. What are you going to do? You're going to go on Amazon and buy something. I watched my mom do it. I was doing it. Everybody was doing it. And that's cool. So that's why when you do look at some of these companies that did have that increase over the pandemic, some of the layoffs that they're having, you look at them and you're like, oh my God, things must be bad, but they're not as bad as they look because it's just them getting rid of that bump that they picked up just for that. Think of it as a seasonal thing, kind of like one of them companies at Christmas that used to hire a bunch of people and then after Christmas let them go. It's the exact same thing, but in this case, it was a longer Christmas or a pandemic, a virus, the gift that keeps on giving, I guess. So, and Mr. Red Taco says, I like the service I get at a mom and pop shop, even though they are a few and far in between now. Yeah, absolutely. I used to actually work at one point as assistant manager in a toy store, and it was a mom and pop toy store. It was run by a couple of teachers. Their focus was on educational toys, and it was a lot of fun. Like, I had parents that would come in and I'd get a toy out and I'd show them how the toy works and show them how to play with it. And, just the skill sets that would help them with their child. And that used to be a lot of fun. And that's the type of service you can't get at a Walmart. Like, a Walmart person's not going to take a toy off the shelf, open it up and play with it for you so that you can sort of get a good idea and a good feeling for what it's doing. So definitely a good point there. And Mr. Red Taco once again says, well, it's not going to cost effective for them to keep thousands of people if they can't keep them working. Yeah, absolutely. And, it's kind of business. There are some companies, though, that are holding on to their employees and are maintaining a few more than they need to, only because there are companies that are thinking kind of that mindset that it was so hard to get the employees that if they lay them off now, once the economy recovers, they'd have a hard time getting them back. So there are some companies who have decided, we're just holding on to some people. And, right now, I mean, employment is still pretty, it's still pretty much an employee's market right now. So there's still a lot of jobs out there. And I know they actually held, this weekend, they held, job fairs at all the big bus stations, in Ottawa, because they want to hire about 500 people for Ottawa Transpo. So, hey, if you're in Ottawa and you want to be a bus driver, they're hiring, just letting you know. So that's definitely one of those things that's going to be interesting. And Mr. Red Taco says, Well, they paid for the training and put the money in. It would be a waste to get rid of them and retain people all over again. Yeah, absolutely. Um, when I used to train at a technology company that was it's a bit of a, well, they had a call center and they also did a lot of networking and stuff as well. One of the things I used to tell the staff is that, when we hire you and we invest the time in training and we also, just the amount of extra coaching that a person needs as they're getting up to speed, that's a lot of an investment for us to put it in and for us to redeem and get back everything from marketing, advertising, all of that stuff. Um, oh, that's weird. I got a phone call. Don't worry about it. I'm not answering it. I never answer. Uh, oh, I was thinking, I thought maybe it showed up on here, but it wasn't coming through because I'm using the phone right now as the camera. So that's really, really cool. But here's the funny thing. I switched my ringtone to just some ducks quacking. I was like, okay, let's have something that's pretty quackers, right? Now, every so often, I hear friggin' ducks flying by outside the window, and I'm looking to my phone, and it's like, wait a minute, it's not ringing. So, what's going on there? All right, Gustavo. I hope I said your name right. Might just be Gustav. Maybe the O is silent. It's either Gustav or Gustavo. Anyway, yay! I finally been able to catch one of these lives. Thanks a lot for all the info you always share. Yeah, absolutely. That's what I'm here for. And whether or not you can catch this live, the replay is always available. And those of you who are currently watching this on the replay, you guys rock. Love you all. So yeah, absolutely. It's good to see you. And then Mr. Red Taco says, they want to talk to you about your car's extended warranty. Maybe. Well, it was from an area code 204. I do not know where that is. Chances are it's probably, I would say I get calls, and then whoever had my number before me, I get their calls. Usually it's a telemarketer or I don't know what you call it, like a collection agency. I think they leave a message. They won't even talk to me. They just leave a message telling me to call this number, and it's usually an 888 number with in concerns of file number, and they give me this big long file number. And it's like, seriously, why would I call them when it's not my problem? And if you've ever had somebody who had your phone number before you get it, oh, is it? Apparently the 204 is in Manitoba. So somebody in Manitoba. All right. Well, maybe it's not. I don't know. That seems like a weird place for a collection agency, but I have had situations before where I've had, like, my previous number that I had in Nova Scotia. There was a girl who had my number before me, and her collection agencies, oh my God, they were relentless. And I even answered and said, look, this person doesn't live here. It's not her number. And then they're like, well, would you like to pay? And I'm like, what are you talking about? No. So it's just, sometimes it's crazy. Those guys can be really, really aggressive. Like, if I owed money to them, I don't think I would want to pay them just because of how bad they are. It's just one of those things. I'm not saying that you should let your credit go to pieces or anything. I'm right now trying to build my credit because I don't have anything on my credit. So that's kind of a bad thing. So I got actually picked up a secured card from Neo so I can try to build something onto the credit. So I just have to remember to buy something every so often and then pay it off before. And here's a really interesting point. When you're dealing with your credit card. So if you pay it off when the bill comes out every single time. So let's say, for example, you spent $2,000 on a $5,000 card, and you were like, okay, well, yeah, I'll get the bill and I'll pay it before it's overdue. That still will count against your utility on that card. So here's what I would do in that situation is, I know I spent the $2,000 and I know that the bill is generated. Let's say it's generated on the 5th of every month. In that case, just as we're entering that month, I would go in and I would pay off a big chunk of that right away. Like, I spent $2,000, I might put $1,500 on it. So then when they do up the bill, it's 500 out of 2,000, or sorry, out of 5,000. And that gives you a much bigger utility that gets reported to the credit agent. So that's just one way that you can sort of help improve your credit rating, just by, by paying off a little bit of it before they generate the bill. That way there, it does bring it down, gives you more utility. And utility is one of those things that they use to calculate your, your credit rating. And Trevor has verified as well. 204 is Manitoba. Well, I think they left a voicemail, which means it's probably a collection agency. Let's see. I had a friend just out of high school, and they worked for a credit card company. Oh, your poor friend. She worked insolvency, and the things people said was mean, almost threatening. It goes both ways, though. And that's kind of interesting. You have some people like, yeah, I would not want to take a job like that myself, because, people are going to be mean to you. Absolutely. But some of the good ones, like they're the people that will, like I've heard of people where they've called up their work and start threatening them. You hear a lot about that. So you don't want to have to deal with that if you don't have to. Oh, and let's see. But if you don't pay in full, you pay interest. Why pay interest? No. Okay. What I'm saying, Mr. Red Taco, is that, so, okay, they generate your bill on the 5th. You've spent $2,000. So if you go in before the 5th, before they generate the bill, and you pay, say, $1,500, when they generate the bill at $500, saying, okay, yeah, you owe $500, and then you have a date to pay it by before there's any interest charged. So then you pay that $500, and bang, you're back to zero. You're not paying any interest. What you're doing is you're sort of manipulating it to give you the opportunity to get a better utility score. So that's kind of where we're going. I have a whiteboard behind me. I should use that one of these days. And, we got that. Visa considers me a deadbeat since I pay the balance off every month. Well, you know what? That's it's not that they consider you a deadbeat, it's that they're not making money off of you. So they're probably like, come on. Because, that's the thing. If you get a cashback Visa or a cashback credit card and you're paying it off every month and you're just accepting those rewards, they're losing money on you. Absolutely. They're just hoping one day you're not going to be able to pay that off. And most people don't. So they're making money off of everybody else. So I wouldn't feel bad about that. All right. And Gustavo says, I wish a lot of people just use credit cards. I guess a lot of people just use credit cards carelessly. Yes, they do. Treat a credit card as your debit, regardless how much credit limit you have. Never, ever spend more than what you have on your checking account. Yeah, it's one of those things. Like, I think Minority Mindset, he's a guy out of the U.S. who has a financial channel. He's always saying, if you can't afford to buy 5 of them, you can't afford to buy 1. And or the other one I like too is that if you want to buy something, you see something that's like, oh my God, I think I need that. Don't buy it. Just sit on it for a couple of days and then go back and see if you still want to buy it. Because that's one of them ways that you can really, really help curb that impulse buying. Wayne Smith and I are both deadbeats. Hopefully the whole community are deadbeats. We're a community of deadbeats. We'll be the deadbeat banana bread army or whatever. And yeah, exactly. So that's definitely really, really awesome. What was I going to say? I had something poignant. I thought I had something really cool to say. But don't you hate that when you're like, oh my God, what was I about to say? And I think it was brilliant. It probably wasn't. It was probably stupid, but I'm going to go play with, I think it was brilliant. I would buy everything I needed on my card and pay it off right away. Yeah. And that's always a good thing. I think the last impulse buy I stopped was, I was looking at popcorn makers because, I can have popcorn. I just can't have salt on it. So that's fine. But I was looking at them and I saw this one. It was like the Death Star popcorn maker. And it's like the half of it came off the half of the Death Star to form a bowl. And I was like, oh my God, that's so cool. I kind of want that. But then I was like, I just sat on it for a day and I was like, no. I'm just paying a little bit extra because I get that extra cool when the normal one is a little bit cheaper and does exactly the same thing. So, um, yeah, so that's exactly what happened. Gustavo says, I truly found where I belong with you guys, Mr. Red Taco and Wayne Smith. Yeah, absolutely. So yeah, this is this is a great community. And that's one of those neat little things. So I mean, there's we got the live stream, and we also have, in case you haven't heard, we do have a Facebook group as well. It's just Mountain Finance on Facebook. And also there's Blossom. I mean, Blossom, we're not separated into a group, but over on Blossom, you guys can watch what I'm doing and interact with me there as well, which is kind of good. Oh, I have another story. How did this not get in? I don't know how I managed to somehow I skipped this one whole story. I got a story on spam. So last year in Canada, Canadians actually lost $530 million to different frauds right across the board. So these are basically just scams and investment swindles in 2022, which is not really good. So that's not good. I have noticed in the last week that somebody has created a false account of Mountain Finance, and they're coming in and they're just replying on the on different comments on the videos and saying, hey, head over to Telegram, let's talk or something. That's not me. Don't do that, guys. I actually know this community is too smart to fall for that, but I still have to say, whatever you do, I'm never, ever, ever going to invite you to talk to me over on Telegram. I'll talk to you here. I'll talk to you on Blossom, even over on Twitter. If you want to DM me on Twitter, feel free. I don't mind. But now I'm never going to try to, sell you on some weird scam over there on Telegram. So I delete them as fast as I see them. But I think even though I delete them, you still get like the email notification if they did it on one of your comments. And, so it's just kind of weird. And it's really interesting too. How they tried to duplicate the word Mountain Finance is they added an underscore. Come on. I would never use an underscore in a title. So I'm too classy for underscores. Remember that, folks. So I think we're all good. I thought you were meaning the food spam. Wait, that's not good and it's disgusting. Actually, the funny thing is the word spam, it actually originated from the meat. And there was a Monty Python skit all about spam, where they go into this place and they're looking at the menu and be like, oh, bacon and spam and bacon. And then, and spam and spam and spam. And as they kept going through the menu, it was like spam, 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 and just kept coming and coming. So when geeks were naming stuff on the early internet, these unwanted email that kept coming and coming reminded them of the spam song from Monty Python, and that's how it got called spam. So there you go. Neat little geeky point there for you. All right, and Vic is in the house. Hello, Vic. Good to see you. All right, you're not going to sell me an extended car's warranty on the car I don't have. Darn. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Well, I mean, funny thing is, I used to work for Compaq. So they used to make computers back in the day before HP bought them. But I remember this one time I took a phone call at Compaq once. And it was an older guy. And he was like, I want to get connected to the internet. I'm like, okay, sure. I can help you with that. So I was talking to him. He was like asking me, first of all, he's asking me, well, what is the internet? What can I do on the internet? And I told him all of these things. I told him about what he could do, connectivity and email and web pages and all that fun stuff. And after I did that, I said, okay, well, let's go to your computer. And he was like, well, what's a computer? I'm like, okay, do you not have a computer? He was like, no, I received this thing from AOL, a disc in the mail that said, jump on the internet. And I said, oh. I said, okay, and why did you call us at Compaq? He says, well, I called AOL and they gave us your number. So, Anyway, it was funny. I mean, I had a good conversation with him, but that was the early days. I mean, a lot of people didn't understand what the internet was and all of that fun stuff. All they know is they got this thing from AOL telling them they needed to be on the internet. So I thought that was kind of funny. And K Miller says, spam, the food is getting expensive. I eat the Dollarama luncheon meat. So bargain spam. That's kind of cool. Vic says, when is the recession coming? It's a good question, Vic. I don't have a good answer for you. Like a lot of the signals, when you start looking at different things from inversion of some of the bond inversions, things like that, everything is saying we should be having a recession. It should be coming soon. I know a lot of people are thinking, even a lot of the financial institutions are thinking, okay, well, we'll probably see a recession in the third quarter. Maybe they're right. I kind of hope they're right. I'd like to get this. If we're going to have a recession, I'd like to get it over with sooner than later. The nice thing as investors, though, is when the recession starts, well, first of all, when they call it, the recession's already been going on for a bit because they never call it until you're usually in the middle, which usually means that when they call it, we're not far off from the beginnings of the bull market, which means it's time to start watching all of these things that we've been buying in the bear market. It's time to start watching them grow. It's time to start watching our money get a little bit bigger, and that's not a bad thing. All right. TCG Shane says, thoughts on Canadian banks long-term, 5 to 10 years. Are banks going to be obsolete with apps like Wealthsimple? No, they're not going to be obsolete, only because I think Wealthsimple has a long ways to go before they can overrun the banks. The banks also have that amount of trust that they already have. Like a lot of people don't even know about Wealthsimple. There's a lot of investors who don't know about Wealthsimple, for example. I think Wealthsimple is going to continue to improve. And I'm also excited about Blossom is also looking to add a brokerage. They've applied for a brokerage license to add a brokerage to that as well. So once all of these things start evolving, I think there'll be a lot more choice. One of the things that has really surprised me, so National Bank, they went to commission-free trading. Probably, I think it's a little more than a year ago now. I thought when that happened, and with Wealthsimple starting to eat into some of the shares that the different banks brokerages had, I thought that the banks would sort of come on board and say, let's start going commission free. Let's take away that advantage from them, but they haven't. So it's really interesting to see. I think there's still a hurdle to investment. And here's the thing, though. I think the banks, for the most part, they don't look at the small investors like, with any kind of, oh, they're important. They really don't. They look at the bigger names and people who have larger investments, and that's kind of where they've got a lot of their money. But now Wealthsimple did recently change their insurance up to so the CDIC up to 300,000, and that's really, really cool. So it could be very interesting. But here's that thing. You take a lot of these other investors, so a lot of these non-retail investors, so more institutional type investors who are using the big banks, they're not going in and making a lot of trades. They're usually buying and holding for longer periods of time. So I don't think a lot of the fees are hurting them as much. But now those of us in the retail, those of us who do make more active trading, commission free has been a game changer for us. So that's kind of interesting. Yeah, mystery meat at the dollar store. Does anyone here buy Canadian T-bills or other such products, not GIC, and tell me how to do it? I don't personally, Vic, but maybe somebody does. I use RBC. Reminds me of the time when I was with TD Waterhousers. I talked to an expert about short selling. She called Toronto to ask about their policy concerning selling shorts. Well, if she is in that position to be, running or at least helping in that department, you would think she would understand the products and their policies. Unless it was like day one on the new job. So $8.99, fingers crossed. I'm not sure what 89 refers to, but that's fine. I think the banks have a hold on older generations who see banks as safety. Yeah, yeah, absolutely. And that's kind of one of those things. Older generations and some of the bigger institutions. All right, Mr. Red Taco says, you have all these new banks coming online, but the actual banks buying them, taking them out, kind of like the cell phone companies in this country. Yeah, there's a little bit of that again. Currently, I mean, I use EQ Bank as my main bank, where I have like, where any money I got coming in gets deposited to EQ, and then I also have EQ attached to. I can fund my national bank direct brokerage from that, and of course I can fund the Wealthsimple as well. So I do have that going. Enid, you're late again. Holy banana bread. Getting in here at the end, but you know what? You can always watch the replay, so that's not a bad thing. Why is TELUS Talk such a dog? Why are any of the big three? Now, here's the interesting thing. I was talking about the big three the other day to somebody. And with now that we've got Freedom coming out with their first national plan, and it's a pretty good plan at a very good price, how are they going to respond to that? Obviously, they're going to have to start matching them, or they're going to lose a lot of business. But I know how Rogers works, and I think the other two probably work in the same way. So this is what I think is going to happen. I think they'll match the plans that that Freedom comes out with for new customers only. So if you're already a customer, you'll still be paying what you're paying now and they'll just wait until you call and threaten to quit before they'll move you to that plan. And I think they'll do that and try to milk as much money as they can while they can on the higher plans before enough people catch on. So if you have a big plan, just take a look. Don't log into your phone plan. Okay, go in fresh as though you're a brand new customer and look at the plans they're offering. And if they are significantly coming down, then you need to call up and talk to their. I think they have like a resolutions department or some kind of a cancellation department, whoever it is. Talk to the cancellation people and threaten to leave. And I don't think they're going to want you to leave. I mean, if you leave, then you'll just get a new plan at another company anyway, much cheaper. But that's what I think you probably want to do, just to make sure you're not getting as screwed over as they would like to do that. All right. And Mr. Red Tax says, I pay monthly bank fees. I've been to the physical bank once in the last few years. I use the app 100% of the time. Yeah. Well, the monthly fees to have a bank is just absolutely crazy, right? And sometimes it doesn't matter. Even if you're not using your bank account, you can just sit there and be incurring, it'll just be eating money away every month without stopping. So the big three screw us over huge. They're not killer stock. Why are they not killer stock? They are blue chip. They do go up, but I think right now we're in a situation where there's a little bit of uncertainty. So I would be watching those stocks and seeing how they're going to respond to what's happening right now with Freedom. I think Rogers will probably do the best of the three, and I hate Rogers, by the way, but I think they'll do the best only because they did manage to get their merger with Shaw through, which is too bad. I used to love Shaw. Shaw was one of my favorite little stocks until the day they announced their merger that Rogers was buying them. I sold all my Shaw, but of course Shaw also shot up huge in value that same day, so I made a nice little profit on it. And the friggin' Oracle is in the house, and he says they make it hard to decipher what the plans are now. Way overcomplicated. Yeah. And the worst thing is, you can't, if you've ever noticed, they'll only show you plans more expensive than your own. They'll never let you downgrade online. So you have to call, because that way that person who's been trained to give you every possible objection. And I've known people who've called because they wanted a lower plan, and at the end of the call, their monthly bill actually was higher than when they went to call in. So be careful. Know exactly what you want when you're calling into these people. And it's not even the employee's fault. It's that I know when I worked for Rogers briefly, they were like, oh, you have to upsell this, upsell this, upsell this. And I said, no, you have to do this. I'm like, no. And when I used to get customers on the line, it's like, I want a refund for this reason. I'll be like, okay. I just did not like that company. I I refused because this is what I told my bosses. I said, look, I'm giving them good customer service. If good customer service means that they need a better plan that does cost a bit more, I will tell them about it. I will help them get onto that plan. But I'm not going to take some little old lady from Pasadena who happens to be on some kind of fixed income, and then have her paying twice what she was paying when she called in. Not going to happen. I don't know how they never fired me. Probably because I had customer service ratings. I was the top of my team for customer service ratings because I treat people with respect. That's how people want to be treated. And I was fair. And when people wanted to upgrade phones, I wasn't shoving them down their throat, and I did enough upgrades that way. But I didn't upgrade to people just for the sake of upgrading. I made sure that it met their needs. So that's it. Retention. That's the name of them. Absolutely. So yeah, talk to retention, folks. So with RBC and Investor Line BMO, they answer you call fast if you have over. Yeah, that is true. They probably put you in a specific queue depending on how much money you have. So that makes sense. Otherwise, pack a lunch and stay on hold. Canada still doesn't have true unlimited data. No, most of the unlimited plans in here, they you only get so much at the regular speed, and then they toggle you down to basically worse than a phone modem, where you're lucky if you can even get an email. So it's pretty bad that way. So customer service is really customer sales. Yeah, they can be. I just want phone, text, a bit of internet. Remember paying $100+ a month of 1 gig of internet. See, and here's the thing. When I started at Compaq, I was in tech support, and we were allowed to do anything. I had a call because I used to be on something called the ERP line, which is end user replaceable parts. I had a call where a customer called up and said, I got shipped a motherboard. And they used to do that in the early days. They'd actually ship a motherboard. And he's like, I need help installing it. So I had an 8-hour call. It was my entire shift. I took this, and this guy was somewhere in the southern U.S. Had a good twang on his voice, and he was kind of funny. He was actually very funny. He's like, I'm gonna drink. Would you like to have a drink too? And I'm like, you can have one for me. But I walked him through, unplugging every cable off the old motherboard. And, it took 8 hours, and it worked. I never had a motherboard go wrong, but they used to lose a lot of motherboards that way. So they eventually restricted motherboards from being sent to customers. But those were the good days. Those were the days where like customer service meant a lot. Like I could pretty much, if I was talking to somebody and they were upset, I was allowed to just throw them an extra year warranty. Just bang, here you go. And those were the good old days. All right. Yeah. But look at you now, YouTube star. I don't know about a YouTube star. I'm like a protoplanet trying to pick up enough mass to ignite into a star. EQ holds fund policy prevents me from moving from TD, even though TD charges $17 a month. $17 a month. Oh, Brian, you got to find a way out of that. That's a lot. What do you mean, Brian? And sorry about the solicitor at the door. Oh, did we have a solicitor at the door? We actually do get door-to-door salespeople that show up. We get this one woman that shows up, and she's trying to, whatever her cause is, she gets all upset that you don't have actual money. And she gets visibly upset when you don't. You're like, all I have is plastic. And she just gets, it's hilarious. Gustavo says, what's everyone take on $0 upfront smartphone with 2-year plans? For me, it just feels like buying something with 24 installments with 0 interest, since generally I'll sign up for a plan. Look at the math on those. Most of those phone plans, when you actually add it up and look at the price of the phone, you are paying more than what that phone is worth. Here's the thing to do. If you have a plan, let's say you normally do a plan for your phone and you get a new phone every 2 years, start paying extra on your bill. And that sometimes helps. I used to do that. I would pay a little bit extra on my bill, just a little bit every month. And then when it came time to upgrade my phone, I had that little chunk of change there. So I got the phone pretty cheap and I could just pay it up front. Or you don't have to put it on your phone. You know what? We're investors. Maybe get a little fund, get a little investment going for your phone money, and use that to buy your phone each time. But here's the thing, and this is where they get you with the phones. Ask yourself, is your current phone meeting your needs? If it is, well, you shouldn't even be thinking about upgrading a phone. Unless you have a legitimate good reason for it, like, if your phone is all cracked and the battery isn't working, then sure. But I mean, I'm on an iPhone 11 right now and I want to upgrade it so badly, but I don't. Why? Because it works perfectly. It has perfectly clear pictures, everything works, the battery's fine. I take very good care of my phone. So eventually I'll upgrade it, but by the time I upgrade it, it'll probably be to like an iPhone 16 or something like that. So we'll have to sort of see. All right, so they have a policy to hold deposits for 5 days. 5 days, that's insane. 8-hour wowzers, I can build one in less than an hour. Yeah, you can. And part of the reason for the 8 hours, at one point, we had just got the board installed, and I said, okay, we're going to start putting all of those cables that we pulled out of the board, like for, things for the front bezel, we're going to start plugging them back into the board. And he's like, oh, I don't see the cables. I'm like, what? Then he's like, oh, there's a bunch of them running under the board. I was like, oh, dear banana bread. All right, we're going to take the board out again. And this time when we put it back in, we're going to make sure those cables aren't underneath it. So that was kind of an interesting thing. Pick a bank account with minimum monthly balance to have free service. Yeah, absolutely. Like you take, I think with Scotiabank, it's like if you maintain a balance of, I don't know, I think it's 5,000. I could be wrong, but if you have at least that amount in it, then they don't charge you that monthly service fee. Let's see, Gustavo, if you buy a slightly used phone and use one of the services that you can bring your own phone, you can get a cheaper monthly and not tied in. Yeah, absolutely. So that's why I'm saying it is best to pay for your phone and not go through any other kind of financing things. So if you can somehow manage that, even if it's just putting some money away into that account, in a little investing account, that's a better way to go. And, and it also puts that onus on you to get as much out of your current phone as you can. So that's kind of a good thing. And yeah, exactly. You don't need the latest and greatest, and 5G, it's not a big deal. Absolutely. I tried to pay extra on Visa, hoping they'd pay me 29% interest. Didn't work. They sent me a check for the amount. Holy banana bread. Did they really? Oh, that's hilarious. Mr. Red Taco, I had a 6S for 5 years and I bought it used and I pay $40 a month, but I only have 3G internet. Yeah, absolutely. And I'll tell you, not so much here, but when I was living at my mom's place, I couldn't even use my 3G. I had to turn it to LTE to get a signal because there just weren't a lot of towers that far out in the middle of the boonies. Vic says, May 31st, Tangerine Savings 5% ends. Anyone know where I can move some cash? Yeah. I don't know of anybody who has any bigger deals on, but one of those, well, I guess one place you could, I think EQ gives maybe 3% now. You might have to just look around. I don't know off the top of my head, Vic. Let's see, Gustavo. Fair. That's an interesting alternative. I guess my issue is aiming for the greatest and latest. Yeah, it's especially in tech. And I'm a geek, so I always want to have the latest and greatest. Quite literally, I got my, I have an M1 Mac Studio Ultra, and now the M2 Mac Studio Ultra is out there. And I'm like, there's a part of me that's like, oh my God, I need that one. But, this one's probably going to do me for 5 years. So, I'm just going to live with it. So that's kind of cool. Well, thanks, everyone. Very nice to hear different perspectives. Yeah, absolutely. Wayne says, I had a savings checkings account with Wells Fargo. I was charged $25 service fee a month for a bank balance below 30,000. Holy banana bread, Wayne. That's a lot. And that's 25 American. So that's like about 31 or $32 Canadian. That's a lot to be paying. And that's a big balance to have to hold. So, but with the American banks, if I was living in the US, I would be very hesitant towards using a regional bank right now. just until there's some stability. So in a case like that, maybe Wells Fargo is a better option. I'm not sure, but um, they do have insurance in the US. All right, guys. So whatever you guys got left for me, throw it at me because we're getting towards the end of the show as this afternoon creeps on. Hopefully those of you who are, well, I guess anybody except for the Maritimes, perhaps. Hopefully, you guys are looking towards supper, maybe barbecuing if it's nice there. That'd be kind of cool. So, as I said, this week I'm going to put out another poll to see what you guys want me to do the next deep dive on. And we got the 5 biggest growth stocks of 2023 coming up for you on Tuesday. And let's see, Jill says, as somebody who uses their phone as the main computer and communication source, having an up-to-date phone is nice. When my HP desktop dies, likely won't replace it. Yeah, and a lot of people are using that, like either a phone or a tablet. Yeah, U.S. banks are like the Wild West. Yeah, absolutely. Except for they frown down on you when you bring a 6-shooter in, right? I mean, what's up with that? Mr. Red Taco, has Elon Musk bought anything today? I haven't seen him in the news as of late. I don't think he has. I think he's kind of just sitting back after that whole DeSantis debacle on Twitter. But no, I haven't heard of anything else. And that's probably for the best. I did get somebody shared with me a scam thing from Elon Musk saying, what was it saying? How Canadians can work for, not have to work to make money. And I was just like, oh my God, that is totally scammy. But, Alberta election tomorrow. Who's going to win, Vic? Who's going to win? You can call it here and we'll tell you, well, you'll tell us if you're right. Are the Conservatives going to stay in power? Or is it going to be the NDP? I don't think the Liberals are big in Alberta. I think it's either going to be Conservatives or NDP. Oh, UCP. Who's UCP? I haven't been in Alberta in a bit now. Let's see. No Dogecoin hypes. Yeah, exactly. I'm glad that those days are over. You don't like the UCP then? Is the UCP sort of like the NDP? Are they kind of like the far left? Is that kind of what they are? I don't know. I'm probably saying, okay, yeah. Jill was yelling something at me, and probably because she's not a conservative fan. Conservative is the UCP. Oh, the United Conservative Party. Is that what they're called? United. That's kind of cool. All right. Well, that's fine. Let's see. UCP is United Conservative Party. Yes, Mr. Red Taco. And the freaking Oracle says ATH coin is launching tomorrow at noon. ATH, is that? No, that's not I'm thinking if there's that one coin that wants to scan your eye print or your iris or something, but is that WorldCoin or something like that? But ATH coin launching tomorrow at noon. Now, Bitcoin has actually been doing okay lately. I think they were around 30,000. I'm just going to take a quick gander over here, see where they're at right now. Oh, they've fallen a little bit, 27,595. So for those of you who are mulling about crypto, but on the bright side, I think crypto has become a lot more stable, at least for Bitcoin, Ethereum as well. I think, not going to say that I'm ready to jump in and start investing in them, but I think that they're looking a little bit better. I think for those who always been arguing, when is the Bitcoin bottom in? I'm pretty sure that's already happened. I think we're looking okay on that. I think it'll be it'll go up, but I think it's not going to go up really fast. I think it's going to be a slow, steady climb, probably take a long time before we see all-time highs again. And Mr. Red Taco says, I owned a laptop long ago that had a fingerprint security. The software bricked the laptop. Safe for my butt. Let's see here. 27 to 30 swings. Awesomeness. All right. I have not had any real issues with my fingerprint other than I always found that if I come in from out of the cold, and I would try to put my finger down, I would it wouldn't recognize my fingerprint because I think it's like the cold shrunk my fingerprints or something, or just pruned the skin a bit. So thank God it still has a key code as well. And Wayne says, I'm still in the US. Has Canada issued new currency with King Chubby staring out at you yet? No. What I heard last is that Canada has no intention of removing the Queen at any time soon. So I don't think you're going to see, unless that has changed. I think they just wanted to honor her for longer. But one of the things that we have been doing is we also have two people on the coin. Of course, the Queen on the back. Then on the front, we have different people. So I think there's been a movement now. I think they're going to put an Indigenous person on one of our bills. I actually would love to see, and this is what I want to see. I would love to see Terry Fox on one of our bills. I think he's like a Canadian hero, selfless. I think he belongs on the bill. That would be who I would say. Maybe not the $5 bill. The $5 bill has hockey on one side, and that's cool because Canadian hockey kind of goes together. Oh gosh, maybe on the 50 or something. I don't know. I think Viola is on the 10. And for those of you who don't know who Viola Desmond is, she is a woman from Nova Scotia in the past. She's Black, and she had an issue going to a movie theater. They wouldn't let her buy a seat down below because that was the white section. So she bought it anyway. Got arrested, and that created a whole big kerfuffle. Let's put that the right word. Holy cow, that was almost a bad word. It created a whole mess, but it was a big movement towards civil rights. And, she's been pardoned and everything since and is now on the $10 bill. But I still think Terry Fox belongs on a bill. So that's just me. Oh, really? So apparently Terry was on a $2 bill once upon a time. I never saw that. And how is he not on any money? And God save the king. Still getting used to it. Yeah, exactly. We'll never get to hear Freddie Mercury singing God Save the King, unfortunately. Unlike Gretzky, Fox doesn't push gambling sites. No, he does not do that. Oh, he was on the Toonie twice. Oh, well, that's good. See, that's the thing. I never see real money ever. So it's like, wow, that's kind of cool. Or, on the Looney. Okay, I get that. I showed a Looney to an American friend. He asked if we were using slugs for currency. Yeah. Or the most famous thing the Americans love to say is that we use Monopoly money up here in Canada because of all of the colors. That's funny. Next time I go to the States, I'm going to bring some Monopoly money and see what kind of an exchange rate I can get for it. Probably not, but anyway. See, Biden looks frail and ill. Well, I imagine working out that debt ceiling with the amount of pressure that's on it, he probably needs a good nap. See, did you all hear about the Vancouver Cupcakes robber who cleaned up his mess? That does sound like a Canadian for sure. American money is colors now. Oh, really? I would love to see the American money, get a bit of a facelift. Now, the nice thing here about Canadian money is that it's pretty much indestructible now. It's like a plastic polymer type thing, and you can put it through the wash, and it's not going to hurt it. Which is better than paper. I remember when we used to have paper money, and you put it through the wash, and you're trying to convince the store clerk that it's a $20 bill, and they're not buying it. Vic, did they leave a note that said sorry, not sorry? Yeah, it's one of those funny things. It's like, when Canadians are telling Americans that they don't apologize all the time, they'll usually start it off by, sorry, got to let you know I don't say sorry all the time. So that's just the way it is. All right, everybody. Holy banana bread. We've gone 1 hour, 24 minutes. That's a great show. I'm going to head out of here in just a couple of seconds. So just to let you guys know, once again, get those questions to me for the Hot Ones Challenge, because that one's going to be fun. I don't know how long that challenge is going to go. It really comes down to how interactive, because not only am I going to have the 10 questions that I'm going to answer as I'm going from hot to hotter, we're also going for I vote for a longer stream. Holy banana bread. It's actually interesting. I'll tell you this funny little story in just here a second. See, I told American that we got rid of pennies some years ago. He told me I thought that you Canadians had no sense. That is funny. Anyone second my notion. The guy that I had interviewed way back at the early part of the channel, Kuhn, he was a Twitch streamer, and he used to do this thing, and I was always like, oh my God. Like, his normal stream was like 8 hours, but he was playing games all day, right? So what he used to do is if he hits different goals with people donating whatever, whether it be, I think it wasn't so much, I think it was a train. Every time he got a train, because they have this hype train they do on Twitch. Every time he got a hype train, he added an hour to the stream. So sometimes people would get these hype trains going and they'd keep them on for 3-4 extra hours. I was just like, oh my God, that's craziness. But yeah, it's one of these things. You know, if somebody were to drop cash and say, hey, Candace, stay for another 30 minutes, I would probably do it. I'm not saying to do that, though. I just, you know, then we can filibuster all night. Ah, ha, ha. Yes, I do have an idea. Here is the idea. 2,000 subs. So right now I'm at 1942 when we started this. So I could be at 1943 right now. I don't know. But basically another 58 subs and we're there. So it'll happen in June. So it will be June. I'm going to give everybody like, so if I hit, let's just say tonight I blew up and I hit the 2,000 subs. Well, I'm going to give you guys about a week's notice because I think a lot of people will be like, okay, I definitely want to be there. So it's not going to take over this, right? Oh, Vic, oh, I'll get there right away if you tell all your exes to subscribe. That'd be funny. I'm going to give you guys a little bit of a notice. It'll be a bonus live stream. So it'll probably be, I'm thinking it's probably going to be like a Thursday night stream or maybe even a Friday night stream. Because, you know, we'll just sort of let loose. And the replay will, of course, be available for people who can't make it. But yeah, we'll be doing it that way. And I'll give you guys plenty of notice. So look at it this way, about roughly a week after we hit 2,000. That's what we're looking at. Unless, of course, if we hit 2,000 on Wednesday and I want to do it on a Thursday, then it'll probably be like the following Thursday. So it'll be like 8 days. But I'll give you guys plenty of time. And that way there I can formalize the questions. And I probably want to make up some kind of a graphic for each question that gets asked. Now, I do want to make a little graphic. Like, you know how on Hot Ones, they bring up the little picture of each bottle with the Scovilles and all of that? I want to make a graphic like that, a similar graphic to bring up which one I'm currently on. So I think that would be a lot of fun. Then I also have to look at how I'm going to get the camera set up because I'd like to have it where you can see, like right here across the screen, you can see all the bottles. So that would be, I have to play with the camera a bit and get that all set up. But it's going to be soon. And I'm excited because, you know, some of these hot sauces are apparently really good, especially the ones on the lower end of the scale. And I'd love to be using some of them now because where I can't have a lot of salt, these are perfect ways to add some flavor to some stuff without adding a lot of salt because each time you use it, it's about 25 milligrams. So that's well within my allowance. Good old salt. So yeah, it's going to be, I just want to be live when it happens. I don't want to see it on replay. You know what? Absolutely. I will give you as much notice as you can. And that's one of the reasons that I'll probably do it like, and I won't even do it if I do it on a Thursday night, I'm going to be very cognizant of the people who live in, like, say, Vancouver. So they're 3 hours ahead here. So I think the earliest you'd want to see it would be about 6. I'll probably do it about 8 p.m. Eastern. So that would be like 5 on the West Coast. So, but yeah, we'll get that all figured out when we get there, and hopefully soon because I really want to use some of that hot sauce. All right, everybody. We are now at the end of the stream. And then we'll come up with an endless stream idea just for Vic one of these days so he can try to keep things going. Until then, everybody, it has been fantastic talking to you guys once again. We'll be back here again next week and we'll have a lot of fun. And hopefully next week we'll be so close to that hot sauce live stream that it is going to be hot. All right, everybody. Have a great what's left of the weekend, and hopefully a nice, good green week this week. Well, the Americans can affect our market tomorrow because it's Memorial Day down south. So until next week, we will see you guys later. Take care, everybody.